Hi there, this is Sarah, and welcome to another installment of Planet School. Today we're going to be learning about a tool called Planet CLI, and we'll find out how to search for and download planet imagery using that tool. So first, a little background information. When I talk about a CLI, I'm referring to a type of tool called a command line interface. This just means a tool that you run and use from your command line. You might instead call that your command prompt or your terminal, but in this case, all of the above means the same thing. For the most part, I'm going to just use the phrase command line today. So Planet CLI is a free tool that lets you use Planet APIs from your command line without writing any code. This can be a great way to make use of Planet's APIs, especially if you already have workflows that use CLIs, or maybe if you're looking for a way to automate and streamline some processes without going straight to just writing your own code. Now there are two things that you'll need to get started using Planet CLI. The first is a Planet API key, which you automatically get when you sign up for any Planet account, and the second is Python and a Python installation tool called pip, installed on your computer. Now most of you watching this right now are probably going to already have Python and pip installed on your computer, even if you've never used them before. However, if you know that you need to install Python, you can download the latest installer from python.org/downloads. And finally, there are two ways to get the Planet CLI tool itself. If you're interested in downloading the open source code files, you can grab those from our GitHub repository that's linked here. But otherwise, if you're just interested in installing the tool itself today, we're going to do that together in a moment, and we'll use the Python installer called pip to do so. And just one more reminder, you do need a Planet account and API key to be able to do anything fun with the Planet CLI tool, so make sure you do have your account set up ahead of time. So with that, let's get started. So you'll remember I said that we're going to use a tool called pip to install Planet CLI. Now the quickest way to verify that you already have pip is to just try running a pip command. So let's do that here. To do that, we're going to type pip at the command line, and remember that's also called your terminal or command prompt, and just hit enter. Now if you see something like this, which is a lot of help text that scrolled past, then you're good to go. It means pip is already available on your computer. If not though, pause this video now, go visit that python.org homepage I linked a moment ago, and verify that you've downloaded and installed the most recent version of Python. So great, I've verified I do have pip installed, so let's go ahead and use it to install the tool Planet CLI. To do that, I'm going to type pip install, and I use this -- user to say that I want to install it from my user account on this computer. If you've never used pip before, this is just a best practice when you're working with pip. If you are familiar with pip, you might have other preferences, but by default, just go ahead and do it this way. And then we're installing the tool called Planet. So hit enter on that, and it'll start the installation process. So it's pretty fast. It downloads some packages over the internet and it installs them automatically. And now I have the Planet CLI installed. So let me clear this just to make it prettier. Now let's take a look at this Planet CLI tool. First I'll make my command line a little bigger so we can see what happens. And then to run the tool, we'll just type Planet and hit enter. So when you do that, you type Planet and hit enter, the tool doesn't actually do anything, but what it does do is print out a bunch of help options that tell you a little bit more about what you can do with the Planet CLI. So let's take a look at a few of these. You can see down at the bottom a collection of commands. These are the primary tools that show you what the Planet CLI can do. These commands let you interact with different Planet APIs like mosaics, orders, analytic, and data. And then there's also a command for getting additional help with the tool and a command for logging in with the tool. If this is your first time running the Planet CLI tool, you're going to want to set up your email and password that you used with your Planet account so that the tool knows how to get your API key and log into Planet services when you're running commands. So to do that, we're going to run this init command that you see listed there that says log in using email and password. Now when you run Planet init, it's going to prompt you for the email address that you use to log into your Planet account. This will be an actual email address, and then you'll enter your actual password here that you use to log into your Planet account. Now, I'm not going to do that now because I already have my account configured here, but when you do that, it will set up a local file on your machine that contains your API key so that the Planet tool knows what your API key is. You only need to do this once, and it's usually the first time you install or set up the Planet CLI tool. And when you're searching for data using the Planet CLI, the first thing you'll need is an area of interest, an area in which you're interested in finding imagery. I'm going to create an area of interest now and save it as a GeoJSON file. Now, you can do this using any tool you like, but I'm just using a website called geojson.io to let me quickly and easily create a GeoJSON. Now, for this demonstration, I think I'm going to search for data in Golden Gate Park. So I'm going to zoom into San Francisco until I can see Golden Gate Park, and I'm going to draw a GeoJSON polygon around the park. This doesn't have to be perfect, but what I'm doing is creating a polygon that I'll use to define my area of interest so that I can find imagery in Golden Gate Park. So you can see after I drew that polygon, it automatically generates this JSON, or rather GeoJSON specifically, on the right side. And I'm going to save this as a local GeoJSON file that I can use to search for data. Now let's take some time and explore Planet CLI's data tool. This is what we'll use to search for data. So you can do planet data --help, and that'll print more information about what you can do with the data tool. You can see that there are commands to create a saved search, activate and download data, create an AND filter, execute a saved search that you've already created, or execute a quick search. You can also list your saved searches or get statistics on searches that you've got saved. Now, if you're familiar with the Planet Explorer interface in your browser and you've ever created a saved search there, those saved searches would be available here from the Planet CLI tool as well, as long as you're logged into the same Planet account, and vice versa. So if you created a saved search from your command line, you could later reference that same saved search in the Explorer browser tool. So let's look for now at the quick search tool, just called search. I want to learn a little bit more about how that works. So maybe predictably, you can do Planet Data Search and then add another --help on it, and it'll show you more information about using that quick search tool. Now this is a lot of information. I'll try to scroll to the top here. And there are a lot of different things that you can do to create a quick search. Anything that you could filter your search on in your Explorer interface in your browser, you could create the same filters here on the quick search tool in the command line. There are a couple options that you could use, including restricting it to certain item types or asset types, restricting to a date range or a geometry filter, which is how you would filter for an AOI, and a number of other things. I won't walk you through every single one of these. I encourage you, if you've installed the Planet CLI tool yourself, to log in, activate your current existing Planet account, and then read the help documentation here to learn a little bit more about what you can do with it. But for now, what I want to do is use the quick search tool just to search for any imagery in Golden Gate Park. So let's write that search query. So our command will begin with planet data search, and then we're going to use the geom flag here to pass in that GeoJSON file that we just created a few minutes ago that has that polygon of Golden Gate Park. Now, if I ran this search right now, it's going to return a whole lot of results because it's going to return as many images as it can find that fits in this AOI. And Planet has a very deep stack of images. So what I want to do is use another flag called limit to say only return 5 images for now. Now this is going to work backwards chronologically, so it's going to give me the most recent 5 images that it has that fits inside Golden Gate Park. So let's go ahead and run this command. So it gives me an error. One good thing about the Planet CLI is you can use these errors to teach yourself how to use the tool because there are a lot of options. One thing you might do is not realize, for example, that I needed to define an item type. So it tells me I need to specify the item type of images that I'd like to search. So what I can do is just add this onto the command that I've been building and say item type, and let's look for PS Scene 3-band imagery. So this is going to return 3-band PlanetScope imagery. If you need a refresher on the item types, a link to our item and asset type glossary is going to be in the description. So let's try running this. Let's see if it works. It did work. So it gives me the 5 most recent PS Scene 3-band images that fit within Golden Gate Park. Now you might be wondering, where's the image? I don't see any image. Well, that's true. It gave me the metadata for these 5 images, and I'm going to scroll up and show you some of this metadata. So starting here, after this comma, at this curly brace, all the way down to the bottom, this is a single image's metadata. So let's explore that a little bit. The first thing you'll see is a couple links. The thumbnail link can be useful if you want a quick preview, just a visual preview of the image. You can open that in your browser and enter your API key when it prompts you, and it will load just a preview of the image itself. The permissions just tells you what permissions your specific Planet account has, so yours might look a little bit different here. These coordinates define a bounding box that shows where exactly the footprint of this image is, which can be useful if you want to see how much of your area of interest intersects with this footprint. And then here's the image ID. This is incredibly important in a number of Planet APIs and interfaces. If you want to download the single image, you'll probably reference it by this ID. And then finally, we have a collection of properties that are unique to this image. All of these properties allow us to filter during our search for images that match or don't match our specific needs. For example, this image has 0.09% cloud cover, which is not too bad. It was taken with the PS2 instrument. Here's its X and Y origin point. It is a PlanetScope image. You can see the very satellite ID that captured this image and the sun azimuth and elevation angles at the time of the capture, as well as the date this image was last updated, which is just a couple hours ago here on June 23rd. Now, something really great that you can do with the Planet CLI is take your quick search command and use it to download imagery. So I'm going to start attempting to download imagery using this same command. What I'm going to do is use the same command, but instead of search, we're going to change our key to download. We're going to keep our geom flag for the AOI. For now, I'm going to take out this limit flag. I'm going to leave the item type, and I'm going to see what happens. Looks like it gave me an error. So it very helpfully tells me that I forgot to specify an asset type. That's true. If I wanted to download an image, it doesn't know what image to give me until I specify an asset type. So I'm going to take a moment and review some of the help on this download command because it does remind me that I didn't specify an asset type. Let's see if there's anything else I forgot. Well, there's lots of fields we can filter by, just like with the search, but let's check these options. I could put limit again. I can specify a safe search ID. And this dry run command looks really great. It only tells me what would be downloaded without downloading first. So let's use that to start with. It also tells me that I can specify the asset type, and that's required, and the item type is required, but I don't see anything else that's required. So let's go down to the bottom, look at our command again. So let's add an asset type. I'm going to specify visual because I know a visual asset is a 3-band asset that I can get out of the PS Scene 3-band item type. I'm also going to add dry run at the end just so it tells me what data it would try to download before actually downloading anything. Okay, so it ran my search and it said I could get approximately 1,874 assets. So there's 1,874 visual PS Scene 3-band images that intersect with Golden Gate Park. That's a lot of images. So I'm going to add a limit. Let's take away the dry run and let's limit this to a single image. And now I'm going to go ahead and run this. And if all goes well, it should activate and download a single image of visual asset type, item type PSC 3 band, intersecting with Golden Gate Park. Now, it is just a random image, so in reality, your search would most likely include additional filters depending on what you'd like to search for. Maybe you want only non-cloudy imagery, maybe you only want a specific date range. All of those additional filters can be specified on the command line for the Planet CLI tool. I'm going to point you at some resources later that will help you learn how to build those requests and those command line searches yourself, but I won't walk you through all of them now. But let's run this command. So this is what the download window looks like. And for you, it may take a little bit longer. I cheated. I went ahead and activated this image a few minutes ago so that it was already active and ready to download. So it looks like it downloaded a single item, and there's the ID. The asset type is visual, and it saved it to my local machine. Now let's take a look at this image. So I've opened QGIS, which is my desktop GIS software of choice. You can use whatever you like, but I'm using QGIS. And what I want to do is add a raster layer so that I can preview that image that I just downloaded and see it with my eyes. So let's go up here to add raster layer. And I'll paste in the path to that image that I just downloaded, hit add, then close. And here's my image. Now, that's pretty great. I'd like to confirm, though, that it actually does intersect with my AOI. And I could add my AOI as a layer, but I want to see a map. So I'm going to add the OpenStreetMap standard map here. And there we go. This image, you can see, is actually quite large. It has most of the east side of San Francisco, and it does indeed, right here, intersect with some of Golden Gate Park. It doesn't intersect with too much of the park, and unfortunately the part that does intersect is mostly cloudy, but nonetheless it does intersect. And that's pretty great. I can also see a lot of Oakland. I can see boats here. I can see most of the east side of the city where the fog and clouds haven't rolled in. And I know that this image was just captured today, which is pretty neat. So that was really great, seeing an image captured today that intersected with Golden Gate Park. But I wasn't really happy with the fact that the piece of the image that intersected with my area of interest had a lot of clouds in it. So I'm going to try this search one more time, and I'm going to add a cloud filter. Now here's the search that I conducted before. You remember I used planet data download. I gave it my geometry to define my area of interest. I specified PSC 3 band as my item type and visual as my asset type. And then I told it limit 1. I only want one image. I'm going to take the same search and add one more thing onto the end. So I'm going to use a range filter So I've defined a range filter. So I want a range of values over the cloud cover metadata field, and I want values that are less than 0.05. This seems a little bit complex. I will point you at resources that helps you decode and then define your own searches here. But this is great if you need to automate or make bulk searches from the command line. If you're not quite sure how to define this search, another thing you could do is open up Planet Explorer in your browser, use the browser interface to create your search, and then save it as a saved search. You can then come back here to the command line interface and reference that saved search to download from the command line. But let's execute this search. I'm going to limit it to 1 again, so it may pull a different image, but I want images that only have less than 0.05 cloud coverage. So it looks like it's activating an image. This is going to take some time. So we'll wait here a minute. When it finishes activating and downloading, I'll be back to show you what that image looks like. Now look at that, we've got an image. So let me copy this download location and let's go back to QGIS and see what this image looks like. So you recall this is our previous image. Let's add another raster layer. And here I'm going to paste in the new path of the newly downloaded image, add it to our workspace, and see what it looks like. Now check that out. This image, you can tell over here by the layer name, which is the image ID, was captured a few days ago on June 18th. But now it has a much larger intersection with my area of interest, and there are no clouds here at all, which is great. That's exactly what I wanted. Now, if I wanted to expand my search and not limit it to a single image, I could get additional images that would cover my full area of interest. But because I told it to limit it to one, it's only giving me the first image that matches my search, which is fine. This is just a demo. If I were doing this in an actual workflow, though, I would probably raise that limit or even remove it completely, depending on what my search specifics were. But this was just an example of how you could search for imagery using your command line, which makes it easily reproducible. I could make the same search tomorrow without recreating my search. I could do it with minimal modifications for different AOIs. I could pass in multiple AOIs. The sky's the limit. The last thing I want to show you before I close is how you can learn more about creating more complex searches. So I'm going to pull up the documentation for this CLI. And this will be linked in the description, but this is on our Developer Resource Center. This is all of the documentation for this Planet CLI tool. I've specifically opened the page for data examples, and this is a list of examples on additional searches and downloads and things you can do with that Planet data tool. And remember, this is only the data subset of the tool. In future videos, we'll cover additional subsets, including using Orders API from the command line using Planet CLI. So I'll let you read through this on your own, but I hope that you feel slightly more comfortable now learning to use the Planet CLI than you did before this video. Now, thanks for listening, good luck, and happy learning.